Who created hip hop?
You're gonna see every single race. You're gonna see whites. You're gonna see Indians. You're gonna see Hispanics. You're gonna see blacks. You're gonna see every single culture on the planet at a hip hop show. And majority of the time, you depending who the artist is and depending which city, you're gonna see every other race but the founders of hip hop, which is Black Americans, right? That goes to show you the unification of hip hop. If you go to a country show or a reggaeton show or a rock show, you're only gonna see majority one specific race attending that particular concert or festival or a music event, right? So that goes to show you the inclusion that hip hop does. Hip hop allows everybody to come in, but what happens is that once it allows everybody to come in, once the forefathers of hip hop allow everybody to come in, a few people that are in that wasn't there with the creation process, they start thinking they own it. You know what I mean? And to me, that's a sense of entitlement. You know what I mean? I don't think Fat Joe has ever appreciated what hip hop has done for him. He always talks about he has this much money and he has that much money and has this much money, but he ain't never said, yo, if it wasn't for Big Pun, if it wasn't for Black Americans that created this genre, I wouldn't be rich. If it wasn't for Big Pun, I wouldn't be rich. If it wasn't for Remy Ma, I wouldn't be rich. Because the truth is that if Fat Joe had to rap by himself, he would not be where he's at right now. You know what I mean? He was doing his whole thing before Pun, but not too much was happening. But when Pun came along, that's when Fat Joe's career took off. Even the Lean Back video, that Lean Back video is dope. Fat Joe created the song, but the truth is that when you watch that video, Remy Ma is the one that took that song to the top. You know what I mean? But there is no respect and homage paid towards the individuals that brought him. And that's when I start thinking, I'm like, you know what, man, enough's enough though. You know what I mean? Because as quick as hip hop allows you in, if you don't respect it, they're gonna kick you right back out. You know what I mean? Eminem's a perfect example of somebody that was invited into the realm of hip hop. Black culture invited Eminem into the realm of hip hop, and Eminem has nothing but respect for the element of hip hop. You know what I mean? He respects the forefathers. You know what I mean? Sometimes you'll get black veterans that try to diss Eminem, and Eminem's like, I cannot disrespect my forefathers. I cannot disrespect the legends that invited me into this sport. So Eminem, falls back, and he says to himself, yo, I'm not gonna diss, I'm not gonna go after the legends of hip hop because I am against the hip hop. So he fully understands that. But Fat Joe, he believes he's not against the hip hop. He believes he is part of the creation of hip hop, the founders of hip hop. And it's interesting because when you look at other forms of music, right? When you look at, let's say, hypothetically, reggae music, nobody's gonna argue that Jamaicans or Jamaica's or the Caribbeans are not the ones that created the art of reggae music. You know what I mean? When you think of reggaeton, nobody's gonna argue that Latinos or Spanish people are not the ones that created that form of music, right? You know what I mean? So, but everybody always has an issue when it's very clear that Black, young, teenage Americans created the elements of hip-hop, created the whole genre. Everybody has an issue giving respect where respect's due. And I think the only reason for that is that hip-hop is the number one form of music on this planet. You know what I mean? If you're selling an advertising, you need hip-hop. If you're selling a car, you need hip-hop. If you wanna, if you have a product and it's not backed up by hip-hop, that product ain't selling. So instead of just saying, yo, thank you very much for allowing me into a genre that I wasn't there to create, instead of saying